Hello and welcome to Sunrise Cardcast, your one-stop podcast shop for all things hockey cards. My name is Eric Andrews, also known in the hobby as Hammerhawks, and I'm joined by my co-host and fellow hobbyist Aaron Goldstein, better known as Crease Collector. So you guys have probably heard me say the Hammerhawks thing, for over 100 episodes now, and some of you might not understand where that comes from. That is my username on Hobby Insider, so a lot of you probably know me from that forum from back in the day and still today. But one thing that I've just not really gotten around to until just recently is creating a hobby specific Instagram account, which I know Aaron is very happy about this.
So excited. It's been
If you guys
years
are
in the
not,
making.
yeah, years in the making for sure. So if you guys are not following me on that hobby specific Instagram account, you can do so at Hammerhawks_cards. Unfortunately, Hammerhawks on its own has been taken and just being held hostage by someone that has not used the account in like 10 plus years. So obviously that is not an option for my account. So I figured that just adding the underscore cards would, be an appropriate way to still be able to kind of use that name. So I have just posted one kind of introductory thing so far, but following this episode today, and into the future, I'll be posting pickups and different things in my collection and trying to be somewhat active on there. So be sure to follow me on there if you do not already. I would appreciate that, and hopefully you guys will enjoy seeing some cool stuff moving forward. So just wanted to start off with that. But in typical fashion, we'll kind of open up the episode with some of my recent pickups. I have a little stack of stuff here. Nothing is like super crazy card wise, but there are just a few pretty cool, interesting things that have come in recently. So I figured you guys would enjoy seeing those. First up was a lot of 3 cards from the same person. And they're all of the same person, actually. They are all Scotty Bowman cards, and all of them are game-used suit cards. Obviously, he is one of the best, if not the best, coach of all time, and Upper Deck has made some, quote-unquote game-used suit cards of him over the years. So first one up is from the iconic 2008-09 Upper Deck Masterpieces set.
Oh man, great set. I love that. Yeah, game use suit. Those things are, you've seen a couple of those over the years for various sets, various years. But that's a good one right there. Yeah, I mean, classic set, honestly. It's fantastic.
Yep.
Love that card.
Great product. And of course, the canvas clippings and the autograph cards from the product have kind of that like matte border on them, and then like the canvas.
Yeah,
and everything.
canvas style.
They are beautiful cards. So I know I believe he has a Detroit, a Pittsburgh, and a Montreal version.
Cool.
In the product. So this is the Red Wings one, as you can see there.
That's
obviously,
great.
it's all from the same suit, but kind of just shows him from different points in his career. And obviously, those are probably the 3 teams that he's most known for coaching. So I'm like 99.9% sure I have the Penguins one in my collection already. So just kind of getting that one was cool, and it just made sense picking it up as part of this lot from a cost standpoint. And obviously it's a really cool card. So start off with that one. This next one, I know Aaron, you'll appreciate the specific set that this one is from, because you somewhat recently picked up a card from this set yourself, from 2003-04 SP Game Used Limited Threads out of 75.
Ooh, that's right. Picked up the Gretzky to match Eric's collection at the Expo recently. So that is, man, I love that card. I love always carrying the cup. Any card with the Stanley Cup in it, I think we can all agree is amazing. So that is really cool. And hey, like, should they bring back, just a sidebar here, should they bring back, these coaches cards? Like, this was very deliberately planned, and as Eric has mentioned, these went on for a couple years. I mean, Scotty Bowman, he's a legend and deserves to be in these sets. But should we continue to do this? Should we add in these coach cards now and again? It could be coaches now. It could be guys from the past. I mean, I know Gretzky had a coach card or 2 out there, and that was really cool. I mean, should they bring these back? I think for maybe not everybody, but I think, you know, a select handful of coaches, past, present, I think would be an awesome idea. It doesn't have to be a game use suit, but I think just some select insert sets, even, you know, dare I say, in some notable flagship products. I mean, just kind of mixing them in, I think would be a cool idea. And that's just me. That's just
No,
me.
I would agree, and I know back when Panini had a license, they did some stuff with coaches. I know they
Yeah.
had like a coach's autograph set in Zenith that was extremely
Yeah.
popular. Stuff like that. I think as long as you're not overdoing it and they still feel kind of unique and special, I think
Yeah.
there's definitely a place for it, and people really enjoy those cards.
Especially if it's like an ex player, you know, I
Yeah,
think it kind of is twofold, you know, the way it might apply in someone's collection, you know, versus like someone who might, hey, like I like this team. So yeah, the coach is part of the team. I'm going to pick up their cards. Or just me, someone like, hey, I remember watching them play and, you know, maybe they were kind of obscure. And okay, now it's finally time to get some cards of this player, you know, into their sort of, you know, overall PC. So I think honestly, maybe not every coach. I don't think we're ever there yet, but I think just a select few, you know, present day coaches and, you know, mixing some of the from the past, I think would be great.
yeah, it would be cool, and there would definitely be a market for the cards for
Oh,
sure,
100%.
as we've seen in the past. So then the third one, this is really the reason why I ended up buying the lot. This was the card I really wanted of the three, even though the first two are very nice in their own right. But this is obviously a great product and a great set within that product from 2003-04 Upper Deck Premier Collection from the Legends insert set, numbered out of 25.
Oh, wow. That is a great set.
Obviously a
That
very
is so
large
cool.
piece there.
It's huge. Oh, I love that. Yeah, those older premieres are just amazing. So yeah, another great card. I mean, if you can't see it here, I'm sure you can look up the set, but if you can, I mean, the card just kind of speaks for itself. Just iconic. And again, whether it comes to a player or, you know, a coach of the game, anytime you can get a legend from some area of the sport, it definitely it draws an eye, that's for sure. And Scotty Bowman obviously is one of them there. So awesome pickup.
Yeah, definitely was happy with those. The price I paid for them was fantastic in my opinion. I know some of his stuff is kind of hit or miss on the values, but I figured that honestly, just the last one, the Premier Collection one, was probably worth what I paid for all three. So it's like, well, if I can get three for a price that I would have been happy paying just for the last one. Awesome. So that's the first part of the mail. Second, you guys may have heard me talk about this set before. It's a set that I've been chipping away at for a number of years now, probably close to or maybe even more than 10 years. The 1999-2000 Black Diamond A Piece of History stick set. And I've been very particular about the copies that I'm picking up because I want really nice stick pieces. You'll see a lot that are just plain wood, and there's really nothing overly interesting about the piece, and I always avoid those and try to find something that's a little bit more interesting. So, fairly recently, I don't know, this was probably a few weeks ago, somebody appeared to have a complete set of these that they were auctioning off. They broke up the set, auctioned them all off individually on eBay, and there were a couple that I was able to get that caught my eye, and one of them really isn't anything like crazy interesting, but this one that I will show is just a spectacular looking card. Not only the design of the set is great, the photo is awesome, and then the stick piece really complements both the design and the team and the photo really well. So the one that I'll show is the Jaromir Jagr.
That is awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, there's something about those early, you know, kind of 90s, early 2000s era of, you know, memorabilia cards, especially with sticks. You know, I remember first seeing those and just being like kind of enamored that, okay, game use is cool, but like a stick, you know, like we're getting, you know, we're pushing the boundaries here, you know, and this set specifically is one of the ones that I believe it was one of the first I saw in terms of game use stick pieces. I could be wrong, but I'm just trying to think back, to those days. And yeah, just an amazing piece. And of course, when you can pick up a Yager, a guy who's, check notes still playing, which is insane. I believe it's his last season,
It
but
is.
yeah, but I mean, we'll see it when it happens. I mean, this guy's been playing for literally forever. And I mean, I think he won't believe it until he actually does it, because he's just so driven and just so dedicated. So yeah, an amazing card of a still active player. So I'll just leave it at that. That's awesome.
True.
And Black Diamond, old Black Diamond is great from that era, and then a little bit beyond that. It was just such a great set. I personally don't enjoy as much what they've done with it now, but I mean, to each their own. But just a great blast from the past.
Yeah, further to the point of how long he's played, this card is from, I believe, his 10th NHL season, and this card is like 25 years old now.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
That's pretty crazy. Huh.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but again, just I love the design, and it's a really nice photo of him, and then kind of the stick piece being that like grayish color, then also having some yellow on there. Just I feel makes for an extremely visually appealing card. So yeah, just super cool. So that's that one.
That's awesome.
Got a couple more cards here. And then I know, Aaron, you actually have something that you want to talk about as well.
I do. Yeah, I just kind of remembered something.
So next up for me, the last two actually are both of Mr. Four Nations Face-Off, Jacob Slavin.
Legend.
This one is a card that I just had not been able to track down, even though it's been out for a number of years now. But a collector in Finland, I believe, had the card, and we were able to work out a deal. It's from 2019-20, the Cup. It is a Cup Sixes patch, number 2 of 3 of the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
So, featuring Svechnikov, Aho, Teravainen, Niederreiter, Dougie Hamilton, and Jacob Slavin.
That's great. So all the way from Finland? That's fantastic.
From Finland. Yep.
I recently made a post of, it's titled My Collection and the World. And I tried to track down exactly. I used like a little map creator and actually tried to track down where, cards I was able to kind of pick up or where they were made or, whatever it is, or various countries around the world. And then at the end of the exercise, I had this map that was sort of color coded to see kind of where my collection, quote unquote, came from. And it's really cool to see, where we get our cards. You know what I mean? Whether from a manufacturing standpoint or from just making deals with people from Finland or wherever, which is really cool. So that is an awesome pickup. I love it. And as far as Slavin goes, I mean, his play at the Four Nations, I mean, as everyone knows, was fantastic. And for me, I mean, I've seen him play, and he's a great player, but it was obviously a tournament that a lot of people watched very, intensely. And I think, from the get-go, we didn't really know, this is just my opinion, we didn't really know what we were going to get with this tournament. I didn't really know how to feel about it, but kind of as we were kind of jogging up towards it, it really started to get more exciting. And then the tournament came and went. And, for me, just getting to watch Slavin that up close and personal, again, I knew he was a good player, but seeing what Eric sees in him was so fun to watch. And for those who don't know, I'm from Canada and Eric is from the States. And so we kind of have this fun little rivalry going on. But the fun part of it was seeing guys on that team like Slavin being talked about on here. Like he was mentioned on the radio countless times of, okay, yeah, the score was this and that, but what about Slavin? Can we talk about that guy? And he was getting so much kudos up here in Canada on the radio and from the various broadcasters on the various networks. And so seeing him, have his, I mean, I don't want to call it like a coming out party because I think Eric can say it was not that. I mean, it's great that he's getting the recognition now, but for those who watched him play, I can speak for like probably Carolina fans and yourself, Eric. He's been doing this for a long time. And that's why he's in the position he's in. That's why he was named to the team. And so seeing a guy like Slavin get, the credit that he has probably deserved now for quite a while was awesome. And just from a purely hockey perspective, the guy was a gamer, and the guy just total shutdown guy. And yeah, good for him. So I just wanted to, I'm biased because, my buddy Eric here collects them, but I mean, I'm so glad he had that, coming out party, so to speak. And, I don't know what this will do for his cards. I think Eric might be able to touch on that since he kind of knows the market, but it was just so fun to watch him play. And, just that's what these tournaments are all about, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very well said. So I won't echo too much of what you said, but value standpoint, obviously we don't talk about value too much on the show, but
We try not to.
It's kind of been interesting in a way because I feel like there has been a bump on some things, but not so much on others. Like for example, I know there was a 2020-21 Metal Universe Green PMG that just sold on eBay, I think within the last week, for somewhere, I think I want to say like 70 US, which typically those have gone historically for like $35-$40.
It's a
So
pretty decent bump.
that saw a bump.
That's
And
pretty
I think
good.
a lot of that is probably just because it is a PMG. It's a kind of a quote unquote
True.
name brand type of card that people would be going after. But then, kind of on the same note, I won an auction for an OPG Platinum Emerald Surge out of 10 also this past week, and that sold for like under $30, which stunned
Okay.
me. So
Yeah.
I was thrilled about that because that's a great deal anyway. But then,
Yeah.
in light of his tournament, I was shocked that it did not go for much
Yeah.
higher than that. So it's kind of been hit or miss as far as his value has gone. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, it'd be interesting to see what the next Emerald goes for. I mean, maybe you see a little bit of a bump, but yeah, who knows? I mean, and we were just talking right before we went live here, but I don't know for sure. I know we talk with Upper Deck a lot, and I'm not 100% sure, but this is just my theory, is that
and I think you're probably correct.
probably in that SB Game Use every year has the all-star stuff. They have the outdoor games, the sort of special events, game use stuff. And so I would think it's highly likely that there's a lot of Four Nations memorabilia cards going to be produced in the next version of SB Game Used. And I mean, it's both good and bad, because I think those, cards will get a lot of attention. And so for a guy like Slavin, who I would say like 90% should be in the set and would make for some amazing cards to have in your collection, Eric. But I think the prices will be interesting to see. But I think those cards specifically will be really, really cool. I think for all fans of this tournament, whether your country was included or not, it was such a a I'm not going to say once in a lifetime tournament, because I know the World Cup's coming back, and I think that'll be a better version, but it'll be a really cool set to see. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. And I'm so happy that Slavin was named to the team, and that he was able to play so well, and really earn some really cool cards in the process. So that'll be really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So then my final card before I'll turn it over to you. Again, kind of this is a card that I have obviously seen many times at this point and have just not pulled the trigger on one. He had two cards in 22-23 the Cup, non-printing plate cards, I should say. So just like traditional cards. He had two cards in 22-23 the Cup. And both of them, for whatever reason, ever since release, really up until now, have just gone for way more than I think they're worth, like every single time pretty much, especially the Emblems of Endorsement out of 15. Great set, great card. It makes sense that they sell well, but these cards were selling for like $150, $200 US, which to me is insane because he's had Emblems of Endorsements before, and I have one, from the previous release. I want to say it was maybe 1920 the Cup. That I got no problem for like $75 or something, which is a realistic number on them, in my opinion. So the fact that these ones in 22-23 were selling for double or more just never made sense to me. So I just always held off. And similar for this card that I'll show, from 22-23 Splendor, one of the auto patches out of 36.
Oof. That's such a
And
nice
you
looking
can't
card.
see it super well. You see,
I can see it.
I'll get
I love what I see.
I'll get my phone flashlight on the patch there.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. The design, it's kind of blacked out there, but I love that.
Yep. From their alternate jersey is the
Yeah.
blacked out shoulder patch logo. So it's kind of hard to see on screen sometimes, but yeah, I think this shows it pretty nicely there. Kind of the corner of the Hurricanes logo from their shoulder patch is super, super, super cool. But yeah, anyway, this is again a card that every time it had sold, it was selling for anywhere from like $75 to $100. And Splendor cards are very nice. This is the first one I've had in my collection. It's a very nice, elegant, clean card. I really like, everything about the card, especially now that I own one. But I just never really understood why they were selling for quite that high. And then this one popped up on eBay a couple weeks ago and was able to win it for, I want to say, like $40 or something. So I was just like, yep, like patience paid off. Like this is a great copy of the card with a really nice patch, and got it for a price that I think is beyond fair. So yeah, was very pleased with that one. Have really enjoyed having that card just because of the design, and like I said, the patch is really, really nice in person, even though it doesn't show up great on screen. But yeah, so those are my card pickups, and I know Aaron, you've got something that you want to show off, so
I do.
I'll turn it over to you.
I wasn't gonna mention it, but I think I should. To start the year, I kind of mentioned that I don't know what is in store as far as new cards, and so for those who've been following along for a long time, that I kind of go off on different kind of lanes. I guess you could say for the collection. Just a way to kind of keep it going and finding new avenues to kind of explore. Within the same collection. So it is an Enroth card, but it's from way back in 07, 08. It's from the SHL Elite set. And yeah, it's a dual insert card, and Eric has it on the screen there. And it is of Jonas Enroth and Linus Klassen. And I found this from a seller in Sweden. And you'll notice it has dual autographs on there. So originally the set was just a simple insert card, but as sort of a side lane that I mentioned, I collect autographed cards, just TTM or in-person autograph cards, just to sort of find different avenues again to keep the collection going, and seeing how many base or insert cards I can get a signed version of. And so this is the first time where I've been able to receive a dual autograph card, and as you can see there, it's autographed by both players, and it's just a really unique kind of card that I don't think there'd be too many of these out there, autographed again by both players. So I think that's a really unique pickup for the collection. And again, I wasn't going to mention it, but I just wanted to kind of feature it here on the podcast. Just if you're a collector out there that thinks, okay, well, where does my collection go from here? If you've been like me collecting a player for a long time, and you kind of need that extra kind of push for kind of a new direction to kind of spark the collection and keep it fun, and find ways to add to your favorite player collection. So that's a way that I like to do it. I mean, there's many different ways to do that, but just wanted to kind of feature that one here quickly.
Yeah, super cool card. I think I speak for most people that are watching the podcast, and that we just don't see cards like this very often, signed or not. Just the fact that they're SHL cards, we just don't see those every day. Obviously, they're very much available online and stuff, but it's just not things that we are used to seeing. So just seeing something different like that is cool in its own right, but then add in the autographs on top of that, and it makes for a very cool piece for sure.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'm glad that you remembered about that card and wanted to share, because that is really, really neat. So that's all for the card section of the show and tell, but we're not finished yet. I have a couple more things. First up, let me pull it up on the screen here. I've had this for probably close to 2 months at this point, honestly, but just haven't gotten around to showing it off. It is just an authentic replica. They call them the premium version of the Connor Bedard Winter Classic Blackhawks jersey. Just an incredibly beautiful jersey, in my opinion. I think they absolutely knocked the design out of the park. Love the logo on the front, love the tomahawks on the sleeves, the felt finish on the numbers and the crest and everything. And then on the back, a really cool design touch is having stitching that replicates pinstripes, which is obviously a very iconic baseball look, and Chicago Cubs being no different. So the Blackhawks decided to do a kind of a pinstripe stitching application on the backs of their jerseys for the game. So just a cool little nod to the Cubs there. And yeah, like I said, just a beautiful jersey. So I knew that I would want to pick one up, and between getting some money at Christmas and gift card, and then Fanatics had a huge sale on some of the jerseys like a week after the Winter Classic. I think I only paid like $20 out of pocket to get
Wow,
the jersey.
that's
So
great.
yeah, I was like, yeah, this is something I wanted anyway. So to only be paying $20 out of pocket, that
Not
is
bad.
a total no-brainer. Very happy to have this. So yeah, like I said, just a beautiful jersey. And even though they did not play very well in those jerseys, it's still a really nice piece to have for the collection nonetheless. And I know one of my hobby goals for the year was picking up a big Bedard piece. So I don't know if this qualifies as that. I don't know if you have thoughts on that, Aaron. Obviously, it's just a replica jersey, but it's still pretty cool.
Oh no, it's awesome. I mean, just to have a limited jersey like that is fantastic. Replica or not, and it's awesome. My favorite attribute about these jerseys is the pinstripes on the numbers there. Just looks so good. I mean, the retro look has been done before. Yeah, if you can zoom in there. Yeah, look at that. That's awesome. I mean, sort of the creamy color, on the white. Is really cool. I think that's a creamy color. I could be
Yes.
wrong.
Yep.
Maybe it's just the lighting. Okay. I figured so. Like I've loved that on jerseys for a long time. I mean, some people don't like it, but I mean, I think whenever a team does that, I think it's just the coolest thing. Similar to the Canada Four Nations jerseys. I mean, I love those. I just think it's a cool kind of retro look. So very similar here. And yeah, the pinstripes just kind of make this. I mean, I think they're amazing. So yeah, when you said you picked up that jersey, I was like, man, that's so cool. And then you told me how much you paid, and I'm like, man, that is extra cool. So I mean, yeah, great pickup. So cool.
Yeah. Can't go wrong. I mean, even if you're just paying the full amount, it's still a great jersey.
Oh,
But
100%.
for $20, yeah.
Even better.
So
So yeah,
yeah,
great show there.
just wanted to get around to showing that off at some point. Definitely a really cool piece, and honestly, I'm kind of considering hanging it up in my office at work. I'll see if I get around to it, but it would just kind of be
Nice.
a cool thing to have in my office.
Be a good conversation piece too.
Yeah. Everyone knows I'm a hockey fan and a Blackhawks fan, but
Cool.
I haven't gotten around to putting anything up in my office yet. So that could be a good first piece for sure. So
That's great. Yeah, you got to show me some pictures when you hang it up there. That's going to
yes.
be great. Awesome.
So there's that, and then also on a jersey related front here, this is incredibly cool. Definitely a step up from anything I've shown thus far. If you guys remember the last episode, you might recall seeing the 2007-08 Derek Whitmore Rochester Americans game-worn jersey. And you might remember that I said, that they had the white one, which is what I got. And then they also had a red one. And I've never seen the red one, and that is still true to this day. But I never really knew anything about it. And after last time and showing off that jersey, and I posted it on a Game Worn Facebook group, somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, let's have a conversation. I think I have something that you might find interesting. Um, one thing led to another, and we worked out a deal for this incredibly cool piece, which is the nameplate
Oh,
from his red 0708 jersey.
that's so cool. So what happened with the jersey?
So that's a great question. Essentially, what the Americans did back in the day, they were, and I believe still are, very cheap in this regard, that they recycle jerseys like nobody's business.
Okay.
So what's kind of interesting is I'm assuming that when he got that jersey, it had already been worn previously in that season by at least one other player. I want to say at least two guys, actually. And he was a college free agent signing at the end of the season. So he was the last guy to wear the jersey. But what the Americans were notorious for doing, I don't know if they still do this, but I know they did it frequently during that era, is they would take the away jerseys, the red jerseys, because again, reminder, they would give away the home white jerseys in the jersey off our back promotion during the last home game of every season. So fans would get the white ones, and then they would take the red away jerseys. They would strip the nameplates off of those and then reuse those jerseys in the following preseason. So presumably that is what happened with that red jersey. Now, what's kind of interesting about that is 0708 was the first year of the Reebok Edge jerseys. And if people are familiar with the Reebok Edge system, there was a first iteration of the jerseys that the players and equipment managers did not like a lot of things about the materials and the fabric and all of that. So the Reebok Edge 1.0, as they are referred to, only lasted for the 0708 season. Reebok made the changes that the players and equipment managers requested, and this was throughout the NHL, AHL, all levels. A lot of it had to do, I think, with like the material just wasn't wicking moisture very well, so a lot of like guys would have like sweat kind of like pooling up in their gloves and stuff, and so there were just a lot of things that needed to be changed and fixed with the jerseys. So the 1.0 only lasted for the 0708 season. They made the fixes that year and had the 2.0 with the revised fabrics ready to go for the 0809 season. So what's really interesting is the fact that Rochester would have taken these 1.0 jerseys, stripped them, used them for the 0809 preseason, but then when the regular season starts, they switch over to the new 2.0 jerseys. So that's interesting in its own right. But then there's also the thing that is really interesting to me is I cannot find a record of a player starting the 0809 season with the Americans who wore number 28. So one of two things: either somebody wore the jersey during the preseason and didn't make the team out of camp. They got cut, they got traded, whatever. They didn't make the team, so they're not on the regular season roster. So there's either that, or there was no number 28 during the preseason, so the jersey never got worn. I don't know, because I can't find any record anywhere. I have scoured the internet for hours trying to find a training camp roster, preseason game rosters. Can't find any. This is over 15 years ago of AHL hockey. There's just not great record of that kind of thing. So don't really know either way. I would probably more so lean toward that it was never worn. So they essentially stripped the jersey thinking that someone might wear it and then never did. So who knows if that jersey will ever surface or whatever happened to it, or, who knows. But point being, if that jersey still exists somewhere, it's a blank jersey at this point, because even for the preseason, they did not add nameplates on. They just went just numbers only.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So yeah, because I found, like, if you go on hockeyfights.com, you can find
Okay.
a couple of fights from that preseason. So you can
Okay.
see guys wearing those jerseys, and there are
Yeah.
not names on the backs.
That's interesting.
So they stripped the jerseys, and some of them would have gotten worn, and some of them I assume did not. So yeah, anyway, this guy had, gotten
Okay.
the nameplate off of the jersey directly from the Americans, because he was really hoping to get one of Derek's jerseys from the Americans. Obviously, they didn't have one because they had given the white one away and they were reusing the red one. So they said, well, we don't have any jerseys, but we have his nameplate off of it if you want that. So he was like, sure, like, I'll take it. Great.
Yeah.
So he had this in his collection for all this time, hoping that he could find the jersey and then try to like essentially reconstruct it, put it back together.
Right.
But never was able to do so. So
that's interesting. Would you consider that like fair game to like cut up for cards, or would you just keep it as is?
I've had the inner debate, and I have not made a decision yet.
Okay.
But it has certainly crossed my mind on multiple occasions.
Yeah. It's really, it's interesting. Is there any photos of him in the red jerseys?
There are not.
Okay.
Again, I've scoured for longer than I should have online, and
that's fair.
Can't find any. So, which in a way makes sense. That was the away jersey. So then you're relying on other teams posting game photos of the opposite team from a stretch of a couple of weeks during a particular season. It's not very likely, especially during that era when media just wasn't what it is nowadays. So if anybody happens to come across one, please let me know. I'd love to see it, but I'm not holding my breath either. So, but yeah, just the fact that, that kind of really answers the question of like, what happened with the jersey, what, is it out there? What, what does that look like? So yeah, to just have someone see my post about the other jersey and say, hey, I've got the nameplate off of it, and then him being willing to let it go, was obviously awesome. So definitely a very unique and interesting piece for sure, but one that, the backstory is really cool and intriguing. So, if you would have told me coming into this year that I would have had, been able to pick up one of those jerseys and then part of the other one, I wouldn't have believed you. So to accomplish both of those is amazing. So
that's really cool.
Really, really cool.
Awesome.
So that should do it for the mail. We'll get back to the cards here, since that's what you guys are here for. If you see the name of the episode, talking about chase cards on ePack, obviously that is a very, very, very hot button topic in the hobby of late. If you guys are not aware, 24-25 Upper Deck Series 1 came out on ePack a little while ago. And one of the, if not the biggest chase card in the product was the retro Young Gun Outburst Gold 1/1 of Connor McDavid. Card had not surfaced. No one had seen it. No one knew anything about it. And then, boom, somebody pulls it on ePack on release day. Release day on ePack, I should say. Obviously, the ePack version comes out many months after the physical product comes out. So, essentially, that immediately sparked the online debate of, should cards like this be on ePack? And there are certainly very vocal people on either side of the debate. And while we're not necessarily going to argue or fight about it, because I don't know that either of us are like really have much skin in the game in that regard, it is at least an interesting topic to kind of discuss and break down a little bit. So, Aaron, when I say, should chase cards be on ePack, what do you say?
I would say yes, because it's a part of the product offering, like, a hobby store would be, or say buying it, in person, or whether that's online through, a certain store. So I think it's fair game. It's a part of the product mix. It's just one of those things that, people might not like the offering methods, but I think it's, a part of the product distribution like anything else. It's just a different way to go about it. So I think, yeah, like, it is fair game. I get it. If someone's walking into a store and, they want to buy some cards, it takes them out of that. But, same can be said for someone who doesn't have, a hobby store near them. Those cards that are sitting in the stores, they have no access to that. Right. So it's just one of those things that, okay, well, I guess I'm buying online from that store. But now, with ePack, okay, well, I can buy online anywhere. It doesn't have to be from this store or that store. I like these guys' prices or their presence, versus another one. It can be straight from ePack. And so I think it's fair game. I think, with something like this, you're always going to get a mix of the newer collectors who kind of start their hobby experience with all these offerings, at their fingertips. And then you have the, demographic of collectors who, and I'm included in this as well, that traditionally it's been, hobby shop and, through online, through their websites and things like that. So, it's just the way the world works. I think in 20 years, we're not going to really have these discussions. It's just one of those things that these larger chase cards are, like I was saying to Eric, it's not the first time this is going to happen, and it's not the last. So, I mean, as we keep going, as the years goes on, as more products are released, various chase cards of varying degrees are going to be on these platforms, and they're going to be pulled in stores. They're going to be pulled in ePack. It's how the hobby works. So I totally get how it would be disappointing if, you go to a hobby shop and, you want the chance to pull these cards like everyone else. And, at the sense you still do, we don't know where these cards are, but it's just one of those things that as the hobby evolves, that's just one of the things that kind of comes along with it. So people might not like it, and I totally see that side of the coin too, believe me, but it's okay. It's at the end of the day, it's getting more cards into collectors' hands, across the world, and that's really cool. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and you touched on a very important part of not only this conversation, but the ePack conversation as a whole. The purpose of ePack is to make cards more accessible for people who don't have access to them like many people do. Um, I'm sure finding a local card shop in your greater area, maybe not your specific town, Aaron, but your greater area is pretty easy to do.
Well,
you're
there
you're in
actually is a
Toronto.
card. Yeah, exactly. Like there's a card shop. I haven't been to it yet, actually. I just moved out to the area recently, but there is a card shop here. I have not been yet, but yeah, I'm from the GTA area, and so there's card shops everywhere you look. If you were to create a map, there would be some everywhere, and so getting to a card shop is not an issue, and taking a chance and buying some cards. But someone who lives, like yourself, exactly, you put up your hand there. Someone who lives in a different part of the country or a different country altogether might have a difficult time finding hockey cards in their area. Or if they go an hour away to their nearest card shop, it's still very difficult. And so products like that or platforms, sorry, like ePack make this accessible. And you say, well, maybe they could buy from that card shop online. And I'm like, well, some people might, their pricing strategies on there might be different, so it's not really 100% fair across the board. And so platforms like ePack make it more even, if that makes sense. And so I think overall it's, a good thing for the hobby. Just, when ePack came out, I think it's a very good thing. But yeah, like once they started adding more, products on there, like flagship and things like that, it just heightens the possibility of bigger cards being pulled. We're years into ePack now, and people have kind of speculated about it, like, oh, like what if it's an ePack pull? And now we finally have it, a big card being pulled on ePack, and it's not the last time, but I think, the next time or the time after that, I think there'll be some buzz around it. But after that, like as we get going here, I think in 10, 20 years, it's just going to be another platform like the internet was back in the day. It's like, oh, you know, why can't I walk into my local card shop and have that chance? Well, I mean, I get it, but the internet's a thing, and it allows people to buy cards everywhere. You can be across the country and buy from this shop here right? So it's different, and it might upset some people and rub people the wrong way, and I understand, but it's one of those things, the hobby moves forward, and it's one of those things that I think the outrage is temporary, and I think, as a new generation of collectors comes in, I think it'll be much more normalized.
I'm glad you mentioned the pricing thing. Again, that's, we're not totally fixated on pricing and values, but that's actually a really good point because there is it's really more a game store, but they do have a very limited amount of trading cards as well in my town, like 2 minutes away from where I live. And they actually do very seldomly have hockey cards. I know not since flagship has changed to the current configuration, but dating back to like 21, 22, 22, 23, they would have that available in the store, but they would be charging like, not even joking, like 200 US for a box of like 22, 23 series 1 or whatever, whereas you can go online and get that. Even at the time you could get that for under $100. So it's like, okay, like no one's gonna buy that. Like I'm probably the only person in the town that would be interested in general, but given that you're charging more than twice what it's actually worth, like no thank you. So there's that. There's a shop in Fort Wayne about 35 minutes away or so. They do have many Upper Deck products, but not everything. And their prices, again, are a little bit higher than what you would find online. So, again, there's kind of that. If I wanted to go find a shop that has every Upper Deck offering, and they even do like Leaf as well, I'm pretty sure. I know they have done Leaf before. But if I wanted to go to a shop that had every offering at reasonable prices, I would have to go down to Indianapolis to do that, which is close to a 2-hour drive. So, and that's obviously not something I'm doing. So yeah, that's a very good point that you made there. It does create that level playing field. Some people are critical of the prices that Upper Deck charges for their ePack products, but generally speaking, I feel like they tend to be close-ish to whatever the market value at the time is. They could certainly attempt to price gouge way more than they do. So I don't find the ePack pricing to really be much of a problem. Because again, like if you don't like the pricing, go buy it somewhere else. No one's forcing you to do it on ePack. So it's again just offering another avenue for people to collect, which is great. And another aspect of that is the ability to trade with people. You can trade cards, you can find cards that you want that other people have, and get the cards that you want. So it's not even just a platform for opening packs and boxes. You can go out and trade for cards that you want. So that's another added element to it as well. That's pretty important to keep in mind. Is that it is more of a complete experience in that sense, and people buy and sell. There's not a buying and selling feature built into the platform, but a lot of people will make deals on the side and send PayPal and then do a trade, for like a free digital base for whatever the other card is. So you can do all of that. There's the transactional element of it. There's also the factor of you don't have to store all of your base cards. They're all on the platform, and then you can have the hits, essentially any non-base cards you can have sent home. So you're not having to store base cards, which I think a lot of people should appreciate, because stacks and stacks of base cards add up really quickly. If I was to turn my computer around and show you my office, you would see that. So that's obviously a big pro to ePack as well. So those are all kind of just contextual things about the platform as a whole that are important to understand. But in terms of the question that we're really addressing here, should chase cards be on ePack? You brought up some great points, Aaron, and some other things that kind of come to my mind is, first of all, and this is something I've seen a lot of people talking about online, is there should be a checklist of what's in physical versus what's on ePack. And first of all, that's just not really reasonable, because then you're taking away that kind of like randomness feel of it, I guess. If you know this card is only available here, this card's only available here, so I don't think that's really a reasonable ask. But at the same time, Upper Deck does release their overall product checklist and says this type of card is available in hobby and ePack only. This type of card is in hobby only. This type of card is on ePack only. So in a way, they do that. They establish this general type of card is available in these places. So that's important to understand. It's not realistic for them to create a different checklist entirely for every retail configuration, every, the hobby and all the ePack. That's just not reasonable. So they create one overall checklist that breaks down and says this is where everything is available. And not promising that this card is here, this card is here. First of all, like I said, that's just not really reasonable. But also, let's say that the vendor makes a mistake. Let's say that Upper Deck says the McDavid is going to be in physical, and then, the vendor accidentally put it in the ePack allotment.
Exactly.
Now what do they do?
It's trouble. It's very,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So just from kind of a, quote unquote liability standpoint, it's not, a good idea on their end to do that. Because then you're opening a whole other can of worms of, this card was supposed to be here, but it's here. So blah, 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 blah. So there's that. But also, like you were saying, the platform is about making cards and products accessible to people. So while ePack might have its variances product wise from a physical release, you're going to want it to be as similar to the physical product as possible, because that's what you're selling, that product. So you want it to be a similar type of thing. Like if you said, all of the high gloss cards are only in physical, any numbered stuff is only in physical, well then what's the point of buying the ePack version if you don't have the access to the other, all of that same
exactly stuff? It's like it changes. Like if you're selling on ePack, series 1 or series 2 hobby, it needs to be series 1, series 2 hobby. It needs to be the product you're selling, unless you want to configure it even more and say, this is the ePack series. It's not a series 1 or series 2, the true sense, because that's for the hobby version or the retail version. We'll do an ePack version if you want to like that. But then you further split the product like that, and it's just really unnecessary. So I think the way to go about it is just to, hey, if you want series 1, series 2, you have your retail stuff and your hobby stuff, but this is another way to offer hobby, and we got to offer hobby, right? So just one of those things that comes with the territory, I guess.
Right. And then if they did go the route of changing the configuration and changing the contents and stuff, well then you're having to adjust the pricing structure of all of it, because if there's no numbered cards, well obviously they can't charge the same price then, right? Because it's not the same product. You're not getting the same value in the product, so you'd have to change that. So then it's essentially, well, now is this kind of more like a retail product? Like what's going on? So there's just a lot of kind of faults with that mentality, that things shouldn't be on ePack and should only be in physical or whatever it might be. And further to that point, not even just looking at flagship, but looking at other products. One comment I saw online was from somebody who had added an Ultimate Collection Shield card to their collection, and that card was pulled on ePack from Ultimate Collection. Well, and they were upset about that. They said, no, like Shield cards should not be on ePack. Like they should only be in the physical hobby release of Ultimate Collection. And to me, I read that, I hear that, and I say, okay, if you take Ultimate Collection and remove the shields, is it really Ultimate Collection anymore? Because that's one of the biggest aspects, one of the biggest draws of that product.
Exactly.
So you take out, one of those types of cards that is very much an integral part of what that brand stands for and what it is. You take that away, to me, it doesn't even feel like the same product anymore.
Yeah. I mean, they did, when ePack first started, they did, what was that, the name of the product? They had a lot of different parallels. I forget I think it started with an E. What was that called?
You're talking from like
Compendium,
15...
I think.
Oh, Compendium. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like, it's very ePack focus.
Yeah.
It's like,
ePack
this is an
only.
ePack
Yeah.
product, and it looks like an ePack product, and the way it's kind of structured, it's meant for, a lot of digital consumption, which is fine. But if you want to really offer, various products on ePack, like Eric was saying, if you want to offer more products to the hobby at large, across the world, then yeah, it needs to be that product. You can't have like a retail ultimate collection. You know what I mean? So if you're going to offer more products, they can't be all ePack built. You got to have good cards on ePack. Otherwise, people aren't going to use it. And they're going to, and then the good cards are going to be available just what, in North America? Is that fair? No, it's not fair. If you want to open up and truly grow the hobby and have an equal access to cards, you got to make it worthwhile. And, and there's, the ePack only stuff and products more geared towards ePack, more traditional stuff that, more kids could open and things like that, which is cool. But if you truly want to grow its presence and grow the hobby's presence, people got to be able to open good stuff, like quality products, and therefore pull good quality cards. And, it wouldn't be fair to kind of have them pull good cards, but not these good cards. You can pull these shields, but not the Crosby shield, not the McDavid shield. That's too high end. It's like, no, you got to have those cards in it, right? So it's unfortunate, but kind of like the internet, it changes the game, makes it more accessible. And, that's one of the new developments in the hobby, that it's here to stay. And, this isn't the last time you're going to see, big card pulled on ePack. It's just the beginning. I'm surprised it hasn't happened earlier, but
it kind of has in a way. Like
there's been big cards pulled on there.
Going back to 23-24 extended series, the Gold Outburst Young Guns 1 of 1s of Adam Fantilli and Logan Cooley were both ePack pulls, actually.
Yeah.
Which kind of, created that kind of, that was almost
it started
it
started it. Yeah, it started it. And then, it's, yeah, it won't be the last time we're talking about a tier 1, Hall of Famer through and through, just massive pull, on ePack. And, I think people are always going to be mad, but can't please everybody. I think that's just one of these scenarios. And you could freely disagree with us. That's okay. If you want to, message us and talk about it, it's okay. That's what these platforms are all about. To start a discussion and start a dialogue. These are just our opinions, and you might have your own, and that's totally fair. So if you want to, continue this conversation kind of after this episode, as always, about this or anything else, we're always open to your questions, and just here if you want to start a discussion or continue a discussion on here. So that's totally okay. But these are just kind of what our thoughts are.
Yeah, I think that was a good way of wrapping it up. It's kind of one of those topics I feel like you could honestly just kind of talk in circles about it for hours.
You could, yeah.
So we won't do that.
We'll try not to.
You put a good bow on it, and I think we touched on a lot of the kind of the bigger points. So we'll leave it at that. Again, if you guys do want to follow up and talk more about it, that would be great. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. There is one last thing that needs to be discussed on the podcast.
Interesting.
Aaron may or may not have thought that the overall title was the same thing, but it's not.
I assumed it was, and I am Like always, probably wrong.
That you are. So we started with some show and tell, and we will end with some show and tell.
Okay, now I'm intrigued.
So, as you guys see, the title of the episode is "Can You Handle This?"
I cannot.
Chase cards on ePack. Aaron cannot handle it.
I cannot.
So, if you're saying you can't handle it, if you just had to throw out a crazy wild guess, what this card that you can't handle might be?
I don't know. I want to say another Vesna, which has been the theme the past couple years. I'm gonna throw out another Vesna. That's my first guess.
That's a fair guess, and I understand why. It is not.
Okay, I'm wrong. That's okay.
Also, earlier in the show, I'll give you another hint. I showed off a nice Connor Bedard jersey and said,
Okay.
"Oh, this might, does this qualify as a big Bedard addition to my collection? I don't know." I'll say no, but I will say that this card, which you can't handle, very much is.
Okay, let's see it. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I did not expect that. That's awesome. For those who can see, I mean, clearly you can see what it is. For those who cannot, if they're listening on a podcast platform, I'll describe what this is, which is just stunning. I don't think he's made a Bedard card before. It's President's Choice using the, like, what was it, 2017 design? The stick handle cards, and it's the gray silverish color. It's the stick handle nameplate, Bedard number 98 there on the shaft by President's Choice. So this is awesome. I don't know if this was an MTO card, or if because I know he kind of re-releases certain designs and kind of updates the checklist in a way. So I don't know if it was a scenario here. I'm sure Eric will give backstory, but stunning card. I've always been partial to the silver ones. I really like those. I just think they're really, really clean. That and the gold ones are super nice too. But that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's made a Bedard card yet. I could be wrong on that, or maybe a MTO for someone else. But this is the first time I've seen a Bedard card from President's Choice, and that's saying something.
Yeah, so I will address that since you brought it up. He got this stick late last year.
Oh, wow.
And he, I think, emailed a few people, and I was one of the people that he reached out to saying, "Hey, just wanted to let you know, got a Bedard stick and have made a couple cards using it." So the first one was a stick handle, and then the other one, which is available on his on the President's Choice website right now as we speak, is a butt end card actually.
Oh, wow.
Which I believe it's listed at 700 US. I want to say, which
is that just listed?
It's probably been up for like a week.
Oh, I just pulled it up. Yeah, here now. I've never seen this card before.
So those were the first two.
That's cool.
First two ever Connor Bedard cards made by President's Choice. Today, actually, he put up 5 stick rack cards using this same stick. Cards numbered on 5, and they sold out literally immediately. Like,
oh, right.
Less
Actually,
than an
I
hour.
think I saw that. I think I skimmed it, but that makes sense. He did put those up today.
I didn't even see those before they had sold out. Otherwise, I probably would have bought one, honestly. But yeah, so as of right now, unless there is another made to order out there that I'm not aware of, which is possible, but probably not likely, there are 7 President's Choice Connor Bedard cards in existence. And also, one thing he's been doing lately is selling the blade off of Game Use sticks. So I know you can actually buy the full blade from this stick on his website right now. I want to say it's also in that like $600 or $700 range. So yeah, really cool that these Bedard cards are starting to come out. And when he offered up the opportunity to either have buy one, both, or neither of the stick handle, butt end, or both. Obviously this just really stood out to me, and you guys know I like stick nameplate cards, so I saw it and was just like, yeah, that's a card I gotta have. And this is honestly also a really good example of, if this was a card from the Cup, 23, 24 the Cup when it comes out, this would
Oh
be
yeah. Oh yeah.
like a $10,000 card or something,
Yeah,
something
something
insane.
crazy.
And obviously this was far cheaper than that. I would not be able to afford something like that. So, but still, nonetheless, getting that quality type of card.
And it has a picture on it, which I think, is extra key, because I think, from President's Choice and some in the game stuff, the aside from the fact that it's not licensed, like one of the big, I guess problems, I say that, in quotations, because I don't think it's always a problem, but the problem that people sometimes have with these cards is that, oh, there's no picture. And so a lot of President's Choice cards do have that photo. And so it's honestly, it's just missing that Upper Deck logo for people to kind of go clamoring for it. But because it does not have one, for whatever reason, people kind of shy away from it. But for those collectors who've been around a while and kind of know it's not always about, having a license on these cards. If it looks good and has a picture, and of course the memorabilia is going to be, top tier, then I mean, I can only speak for myself, but that's a good card in my books. So I'm going to go for it. So I can't speak for every collector, obviously, but and that's fine. But that's just my opinion there. So fantastic card. Honestly, I don't know what to say. I did not expect that. I know you've been building up your Bedard collection slowly, but this is just sort of like, this launches it, to the next level. So just awesome. Awesome card.
Yeah, there's nothing like super. I mean, a Young Gun Tag 10 is pretty nice, but it's also not like the most unique or interesting card at the end of the day either. And then everything else is much cheaper. So obviously, this is like far and away the best Bedard that I have. So yeah, like definitely a cornerstone type of piece for sure. There are two kind of other cool things, the backstory behind it. Do you want to hear more about the stick or more about the design?
The design I kind of know already. I mean, I think that was what I thought was the original, but a little while back on the podcast, we found out that the golds were the first design, but the silvers I kind of know, unless there was a sort of interesting story on that. But I would love to hear about the stick first, if that's
Cool.
okay.
Yeah, we can do that. So let me share that first here. So here's the front and the back of the card together. And I will zoom in so you can see the back better. Hold on a second here. So if you read it, it says, you have received a stick handle card from President's Choice Trading Cards. On the front of this card is a nameplate from a game-used Connor Bedard stick used in the 2024 World Championship. Authenticity of this memorabilia is guaranteed by President's Choice Trading Cards.
That's great.
So,
very specific.
Yes. So that was an important aspect of this to me, is understanding and knowing when the stick is from. When we first kind of were talking about it, Dr. Price was able to say, yeah, like it's from last season. It's not from this current season. And that kind of just made me further wonder, like, oh, like it'd kind of be cool to know a little bit more, like if he has more information. So we kind of went back and forth a little bit, and he was able to say, like, yeah, it was used in the World Championship, which, to me is really cool. It's from an international event. On the one hand, it would be kind of cool if it was an NHL rookie stick. It is the same model as his NHL rookie sticks, and it's possible, probably not likely, but it's possible it could have been used in an NHL game at some point. But again, just having that, for sure, this is when it was used. And, to me, that's important. It's just cool to know, but it's important to understand that it is from his rookie season. NHL or not, it is from the 2023-24 season. So, to me, that makes it a more desirable piece than if it was a stick from this season, for example. So I, just kind of knowing that was great. And, I said, that's got to be something that is on the card. just to document that aspect of what this is, that needs to be on the card. So yeah, just really glad that he was able to work that out and put that on there. And again, just a really cool tidbit. We haven't figured out. I don't know if he even knows what specific games it was used in. I know he actually did have some custom Sherwood sticks in that tournament that were Canada like branded, and then he also was using in other games some of just his normal, quote unquote NHL sticks. So, if you look up photos of him in the tournament, sometimes he's using an NHL stick, sometimes he's using this special Canada themed stick. So you can at least kind of narrow it down to say, well, he was using this style of stick in these games, but trying to figure out which specific games is pretty hard to do. It's hard to photo match, a stick nameplate. So obviously they look the same. So, but yeah, obviously really cool to know that that's when it was used, and just have that kind of provenance with it. So there's that element of it. And then you didn't want to hear about the design, but I'm going to tell you about it anyway, because
That's fair.
You're thinking just of the card as it is right now, but that is not how the card started.
Okay, so it was changed.
It was changed when
Okay.
he first pitched the card and said, "Here it is. Do you want it?" This is what it looked like.
Okay. Okay.
So it
So it
was
was the newer-ish design.
correct. So it was
Okay.
kind of that current stick
Yeah.
handle design.
Yeah.
And it's a nice looking card, but to me, that original silver look is just such a cleaner, classier
It
look.
is nice. It is nice. I like both, but I totally hear what you're saying. It is sort of cleaner,
Yeah.
smoother.
So again, he reached out, sent me this, said, "Here's the card. Are you interested?" I said, "I love it. Like I'll take it regardless, but is it possible to remake the card using the other design? Take the
Right.
stick piece out, create a new card with it." And he said, "Yep, like that's no problem." Obviously, I had to pay to do that, but he had no problem doing that. So, to me, it was kind of one of those things where it's like I could have the card in this design as it is. It's still a nice card, nothing wrong with it. The photo on that card actually, I believe, is from his NHL debut game against the Penguins, which is kind of
Okay.
a cool tidbit there. Whereas the one on the card as it is now is not, of course. Um, but yeah, I just said, if I'm going to spend the money on a big card like this and I can make it, what I want it to be, it's worth spending a little extra money to do that. So ultimately, that's the decision I made. So went from, that design as it originally was in December of 2024, and then had it crossed over, so to speak, in January 2025 to this design. So and part of that, like I alluded to, was saying, hey, can you make sure you put the 2024 World Championship verbiage on the back? And then, I was able to pick out this photo that was used on the card, kind of hoped to have like a very specific type of angle and look to the photo. So this, I looked through, whatever thousands of photos from his rookie season and decided on that one.
That's great.
So, and Brian was more than happy to use the photo that I picked. So, yeah, obviously it came out awesome. It's a beautiful card in person. I suppose I can grab it here. I do have it.
Oh, nice. Oh, look
So,
at that. Looks even better in person. It's fantastic.
yep.
That is
So,
awesome. Well done on that.
yep.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, who knows if and when we'll ever see another Bedard nameplate card like that. That is just one of a kind
Yep.
in many different ways. And I love the verbiage on the back there, just very specific. Just awesome. I'm not as picky about that. Like for some collectors, I don't need to know what exact game it was used in. I mean, it's cool, obviously, when you can get it, have a piece of memorabilia that was used in this game, but it's not necessary for me. But the fact that it actually says it's used in this timeline or during this season, that's enough for me personally. And so to have it say, oh, it was used in these world championships, I think is just fantastic. So yeah, kudos to you, and just a stunning card.
Yeah, and normally I wouldn't care too much about that either, but I think given that he is, a generational type of player, and just knowing that it's the first stick nameplate card, and who knows? I mean, I don't know that we'll see one from Upper Deck. Who knows? He didn't have one in ingrained. Maybe he'll have one in the cup. Who
Maybe
knows?
eventually, maybe.
Maybe down the road it's possible, but you never know. So it very well could be, if Dr. Price doesn't buy another stick, maybe this is the only one that's ever made. Who knows? You never know. But the point being, it's a generational type of player, and just having that documentation of this is what it's from because it's at this level, of a card and of a player. I think if you have access to that information, you might as well document it. So, yeah, that was kind of my mentality on it. And yeah, like I said, very, very happy with how it came out. And it has not been easy keeping that card a secret for 6 weeks or so.
I can imagine.
5 weeks. I think I got
We
it
did a
on,
good job.
let me see, I can figure out exactly. I want to say it was January 27th is when I got it in hand.
Okay, so to start the year, I think this will be a great addition for your top 10 as always, and I think it'll be it was one of your first cards, but I think it'll make it pretty high up the list, I think.
Yeah, as of right now, I would have a difficult time thinking that this Bedard and the Whitmore Americans jersey will not be 1 and 2.
Right.
If something else dethrones those, it's going to be a heck of a year. So, yeah, but yeah, I've been looking forward to sharing that card. Just a beautiful card. It came out great. Dr. Price did a great job with it. And, definitely humbled that he thought of offering it to me, and, being able to work it out to add it to my collection and have it really be, that cornerstone type of piece for the Bedard collection as it grows, is definitely really, really cool. And it's something I'm grateful for sure.
Very nice.
So, yeah. Can you handle it, Aaron?
I cannot handle it. I think that was a great way to kind of end things off here.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we'll leave it at that. We went a little bit longer than we normally do. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and of course we'll try to get back in a little bit better of a rhythm as we move forward here. It's been a little bit difficult with work on my end and travel on your end, and it's just hard to make things work sometimes. So that's how it goes. But we always enjoy doing this when we can. So hopefully you guys do as well. So again, another shameless plug for my new hobby Instagram, hammerhawks_cards. Do me a favor, give me a follow. If I'm not following you already, I will follow you back. And looking forward to using that platform more moving forward. This Bedard stick handle card will be the first card that I show off on there. I will probably do that at some point this week. So if you want to get a longer, better look at it down the road, stay tuned for that. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode. So as always, please be sure to follow us on social media. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Center Ice Cardcast, and on Twitter at Center Ice CC. Please also be sure to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice to make sure you never miss a future episode. Until next time on Center Ice Cardcast, keep collecting those hockey cards.